Panzer Dragoon Saga is a Japanese RPG released exclusively on the Sega Saturn in 1998. It is the third episode of the series after two rail shooters, the first of which is reputed to have installed an iconic artistic direction, and the second one to have improved the formula and technique more fluidly. Saga has Japanese voices and has only received English closed captions. Add to this that the Saturn was at the end of its life, that marketing was almost non-existent, and that the number of copies in the West was very limited when it was released, it is not surprising that few players have been able to play it. The game was developed by Team Andromeda, created in 1994, to work on the Panzer Dragoon series and disbanded in 1998 after the release of Panzer Dragoon Saga. Development started at the same time as the second episode, Zwei. The vision of the creator of the series, Yukio Futatsugi, therefore led the team to work this time on a title with very different gameplay, which did not happen without lively debates between team members at the start. The work on this third episode was particularly intense since it corresponded to the period of the fierce battle between the PlayStation 1 and the Saturn. Sega needed a title to respond in terms of RPGs to Final Fantasy VII at Sony. Futatsugi recently talked about how much the PlayStation Mini ads bothered him, proof that there is still an open wound despite having left Sega a long time ago. During the title development, the team experienced two deaths, including a road accident. Years later, Yukio Futatsugi and his former colleagues still seem to be marked by this time, evoking the absence of modern tools of management and time management such as those which we have today. After these details concerning its development, let's go back to our story. Your adventure takes place a few years after the events of the first title, Zwei being a prequel to the series. The events are told through the eyes of Eiji, a mercenary watching over a quarry of the Empire conducting excavations, the Empire being one of the forces in action. You will quickly face the second force at play, that is, a group of Empire rebels led by Craymen. Their goal is to recover a relic of the past which will prove to be particularly important in the course of the story. Your companions are killed and you owe your salvation to luck or maybe something else. After a vertiginous fall, you will need a way to rise to the surface. In doing so, you will find yourself face to face with a group of monsters and death seems inevitable. That is when the legendary dragon will appear. Eiji vows revenge on the fleet that attacked him and his companions. Leaving the canyon, Eiji saves Gash, a seeker. The seekers being a group of scavengers. Ash will guide Eiji in starting his research and so your journey begins. The game is entirely in 3D and not with pre-calculated backgrounds and fixed plans as with the case with several titles of the time such as Final Fantasy VII. The combat system was quite innovative at the time. Indeed, there is no static turn-based combat here. The team wanted to combine the shooter side of the first two titles, since lock-on laser aiming returns as well as the gun, with a more strategic aspect which is concretized in the form of a possible positioning in 4 quadrants around the enemy. Sometimes you will have to flee from a dangerous area or look for a weak spot in the enemy. This aspect makes fighting particularly dynamic. The second specificity is a kind of active time battle, filling 3 gauges of a time when you are static in one of the quadrants. The number of gauges filled allows you various actions like the launching of more or less powerful attack or defense spells. Finally, unlike many JRPGs in which you manage a team of several members, here you only have your dragon. To counterbalance this, developers have added the possibility of morphing the dragon. This has the effect of varying the attack or defense statistics, among others. After each battle, a rating is assigned to you based on your performance, influencing your reward in experience points and items. During your progression, you will be entitled to many random battles, which is a little frustrating but not so much in the end given the rather pleasant combat gameplay. Random battles were common at the time due to technical limitations. Indeed, it was simply impossible to display on screen as many elements and enemies as today. The combat system is a strong point of the title. Another big highlight is its soundtrack. The superb music of the game being composed for the most part by Saori Kobayashi as well as Mariko Namba. Here are some snippets. The sounds are also very effective and consistent with the two previous titles. Rare for the time, the game is fully dubbed by Japanese actors.
それになんで追わなきゃならないんです。
Although the majority of us do not understand this language, the voices are particularly mature and convincing. And I'm still amazed at its quality even compared to games coming out in 2020, for which Japanese voices are often childish. The few shortcomings of the title mainly concerns its lifespan, although this was never a problem for me. It has also sometimes been judged to be too easy. But the real challenge is to have an excellent rating in every battle. Certain interior design levels sometimes tend to be confusing, and the map system of the time was simply two-dimensional, which could be problematic in vertical areas. Some of these labyrinthine areas are a bit long, but this is about quibbling because overall the game is more like an adventure than an RPG. Cutscenes lend additional credibility to the world we travel through. We get attached to these characters and our dragon as we progress, especially as our dragon becomes more and more badass. Indeed, by gaining levels, it takes different, increasingly epic forms. Panzer Dragoon Saga is without a doubt one of the first video games that distressed me so much. It will be difficult for you to say goodbye to our adventurers when you see the end credits scrolling with one of the most epic video game ending music.